what happens next? I'm Veronica Dudo. Let's find out.
This is In America Today from the Ticker News Studios in New York City.
Hello and welcome. Coming up, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's running mates go head-to-head in the first and only vice presidential debate. But first, Iran launched its largest ballistic missile attack against Israel on Tuesday, firing hundreds of projectiles. Israeli officials have said there were no reported deaths in Israel. U.S. security officials say Iran's attack on Israel was a significant escalation between the two Middle Eastern powers amid fears of a wider conflict in the region. The U.S. military worked with Israel Defense Forces to help defend the Jewish state. The anticipated ballistic attack unfolded as the IDF said it had begun limited, localized, and targeted raids against Hezbollah terrorists inside Lebanon. For more, we are joined by Rico Danielson, a U.S. Army vet and national security advisor. Thank you so much for your time today.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me on.
So first, do we know anything more about how U.S. troops aided Israel in thwarting these attacks from Iran?
So that's a good question. So the United States aided Israel by launching into and implementing the SM-3 interceptor on a U.S. warcraft carrier, which intercepted about 180 hypersonic missiles that is Iran launched indiscriminately into Israel. The trajectory and the impact of the Iranian missiles were everywhere and anywhere, just blown out of proportion. And also the Iron Dome did a great job eliminating and mitigating those threats.
Now, of course, we know the United States was involved, and we are hearing from officials saying that they will continue to have the lines of communication with Israel open. Now, this is all unfolding as Israel launched their ground invasion. Do we know what triggered their decision to do this type of boots on the ground initiative?
Yes, so Israel always had a plan to take out Hezbollah, and this is actually one of their progressive things they had in the plan for many, many years. Now they're seizing the opportunity as they've pretty much finished off Hamas. They're now targeting Hezbollah in strategic operations, more specifically house to house, raid to raid, and also trying to demolish all their surplus and supplies. That's kind of what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it's a play out of our own book. We went hut to hut, house to house, killing bad guys and chasing after the terrorists.
Now, you have such a unique insight into this because you've done this, as you just mentioned. What does some of the training look like going into this? And of course, what are these troops facing once they're on the ground?
So if I'm on the ground with Israelis, I would actually try some of the things we did before. It's called blitzkrieg, where you dominate the air, space, and then also the land. This is a gridlock land, so what's going to happen is as tanks move forward, they're going to dominate the airspace, and then infantry would advance forward, kicking in door to door, getting the bad guy. And the other part about that is when they finish up those areas, they will more likely demolize all the surrounding areas so they can no longer progress their operations moving forward.
What do you think some of the potential goals of Israel's limited ground and operation in southern Lebanon might be?
Yeah, that's a good question, too. So the prime minister has actually said it very, very blatantly. He said he wants to remove Hamas and also Hezbollah out of the reins of ruling over the Lebanese people because he sees them as an act of terrorism and also an organization of terrorism, and that they are. Unfortunately, these terrorist organizations force their will upon the people and don't let them prosper. So as soon as you remove the terrorist organizations out of power and give the power back to the people, that's a big opportunity for prosperity.
How could this conflict affect the broader geopolitical balance in the Middle East?
Yeah, so definitely the broader geopolitical balance in the Middle East is very volatile at this given moment. I predicted this of many, many months ago when the conflict in Palestine and Hamas was going on. I knew Hezbollah was the next target, and this will actually propagate further more and more. I do foresee a conflict now directly with Iran. Israel will be in conflict with them probably within the next month, and then more than likely the United States will be a supporting factor, if not a direct factor. I know for a fact that there are U.S. troops being sent in an advisory capacity. And an advisory capacity means that instead of pulling the trigger to shoot the bullet, you're guiding the bullet to where it needs to go. Same premise, but it's a matter of time before the United States gets into the conflict directly.
So when we look at the role for the United States and how it might be involved in managing or potentially even responding to this crisis, what do you foresee in the coming weeks?
So that's a good question. In the next coming weeks, we'll see Iran retaliate and strike a little bit more. And then the best interests of the United States, which includes Israel, if they're hit on a certain amount of damages or a certain amount of people are killed, the United States more than likely will step in. If you look at the map around Israel and also the sea and also the ports of Iran, there are so many aircraft carriers already strategically placed there that nobody's reporting on, that you can definitely tell that in a matter of time and a moments, Iran's power grids and also critical infrastructure will be wiped off the face of the earth if the United States engages in this type of combat.
Do you think that's really on the table?
I wouldn't put it past the United States, to be honest with you. I would see that if Iran continues to do these measures and carry out acts of terrorism, more than likely there will be significant damages, and then strategic precision striking would be taking place to gain forward momentum on the battlefield. Absolutely.
Could this conflict draw in other regional players such as Iran or Syria?
Syria definitely would be a regional player. Iran, I would very commonly team up with those people as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they're fighting on multiple fronts, but the same aspect, the terrorist organization are always known to team up against one common enemy, and that happens to be Israelites or the United States before they fight each other. So if they're one common enemy towards us, then they'll be united trying to fight each other or fight us.
Do you think there's a chance for any diplomatic efforts?
Yeah, many countries, many Arab countries have came forth to Israeli prime minister and said, hey, look, if you're willing to, release the innocent people, go, let them live, as long as we have a mindful, peaceful resolution. That is all great and dandy, and I appreciate that, and the Israeli people really do appreciate that, but actions are louder than words. And these actions in the Middle East, specifically from Iran, a terrorist nation state, that they will more than likely just continue their rhetoric and efforts of this.
Rico Danielson, thank you so much for sharing your unique perspective into what's happening in the Middle East.
Absolutely. Thank you.